Guten Morgen, willkommen zum ersten Vortrag des Tages. Es geht um Luca und Markus Feilner. Take it away.
Hello, good morning everybody. This is a talk in English, of course, and welcome to the second day of MiniDebConf, and I'm talking about Luca, something that filled my weekends in the last 6 months, and I pretty often wished it hadn't, but as a journalist, when you dive into technology, you sometimes get stuck on stuff. So this is a true story on coronavirus tracking, technology, and friends in journalism, and many more, even unwanted information. For those of you that are not from Germany, I may have to explain some things, and I have 30 slides in 20 minutes, and what I'll do mostly is translating them into English, not commenting them. As you will see, there is reason why I'm trying not to comment on some things that I present. Luca is a contact tracing app for Germany, developed in parallel to our official corona warning app, and its commercial product is run by a company. And there have been many problems in the last months about Luca, or a lot of discussion, let's call it this way. Recently, studies, a first major study in English language has appeared dealing with it, and they have quite a number of interesting quotes in there. They say, instead of improving the corona warning app, policymakers opted for a new solution, Luca, in an effort to minimize the load of the political face. The loss of political face. Unsafe storage, lack of transparency, use of public money, and preceded by impact assessment and is not clear. We're not preceded by impact assessment, and it is not clear on what basis the Luca app was chosen, overburdening health workers in action by regulators. So you see there is a lot of discussion going on here. The wiki page, if you want to look at, is very, very concise and very precise about Luca app, but don't hesitate to translate the German page, because that's where the information is. And if you go there, you'll find, oops, there's a lot of information. It's a very long page, and there is a long list of criticism and reactions, because this is all about, yeah, they're a little behind, so there is more about it. But right now there is 15 points of criticism on Luca on this Wikipedia page. And what is this Luca? Who is it? Who owns it? Luca is run by Culture for Life, which is again run by Nexenio, by Fanta 4. That's a major German rap band, and it's all in Wikipedia. You have it here. It's was founded. The company that runs the whole thing was founded by the Hasso-Plattner Institute, which again is a foundation, I think, from the SAP founder for science, and they do a lot of interesting technological stuff. And here is who owns the whole company, and you see Christoph Meinl, for example, is still in there. He's a professor at the Hasso-Plattner Institute. And here you see the Culture for Life, and we also have the CEOs. There is Patrick Henning and Philipp Berger. We'll see Patrick Henning in this talk later, and also Markus Trujan, and the Fantastic Capital Beteiligungsgesellschaft, the Fantastic Capital Contribution Society, whatever, holds 22.9%. That is a company founded by one of Germany's most talented rappers of the 90s. And if you look at the CEO and Patrick Henning, he has done a lot with his professor, a lot of interesting scientific papers with topics like cross-platform personality exploration system towards automatic personality prediction using Facebook, information propagation speed and patterns in social networks, and so a very skilled and technologically very, I almost had said renowned, but that's probably wrong, a very, interesting person. And they have articles in newspapers like this one here in Dataport, which is a major German company providing public authorities, or providing software to public authorities. They had, in January, they had an article about one of their authentication systems in their data report, which is kind of an advertisement magazine from Dataport. Smudo is the rapper that helped. And he's about my age, a little bit older. Many on the internet called him a boomer, but he was on TV, and he was on one of the major German TV shows, and that was actually where the whole thing started, because before that nobody had known about Luca, but then Smudo was on Anne Will, which is the anchorman or anchor lady of our German news TV talk shows, Sunday evenings. And there he was and said, this will solve all corona, this will do beep, 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 you just do beep, beep, and everything is fine. And sadly, it turned out only 2 weeks later, when first journalists looked at it, that it is not a solution. Yeah? That's the quoting from the article from Eva Wolfangel. Eva works at the Zeit, and for this, Zeit is one of the major magazines in Germany. She's done 7 or 8 articles on the topic also, and she was an inspiration for many scientists and journalists to look at Luca much more. She got also letters from Nexenio, friendly letters, and her boss got friendly letters from Nexenio telling them what they should write, and that also sparked other letters, again, if you know what I mean. So I started at about this time I was asked by Telepolis, would you want to write about that? And I said, okay, good, I did. And that's how my year on Twitter, or my year with Luca started, because up to then I'd been on Twitter sometimes reading things, whatever. I had some 30K impressions of the stuff I posted per month, and it went up to 500,000 in June, July. And thank God I'm unknown again, and I really enjoyed it, because that was you go to your Twitter account and you have like 50 new comments from people and stuff. That's just, I found that annoying. And so this tweet alone had got me more than 100K. And if you read it, if you translate it, it's just the whole story of the Luca thing. It's about old white men starting something, doing development, bullying female scientists, and so everything in there I said everything in there is totally fictitious. It's not true, and it got worse. That's why I wrote an article, the first article on Telepolis on it. That's called Dilettantisch und sinnlos. That means dilettantic. I think that's a correct English word. Dilettantism and uselessness. And that, again, brought me a message from the CEO of Nexenio, Patrick Henning, as we said. And he said in his first mail, also he said something like, let's stop this war. And I'm like, war? What war? Okay. So he offered an interview. And I can tell you I've been doing interviews and stuff for almost 20 years, and I've never encountered an interview partner like Patrick. That was so amazing. Read the interview series. It is 3 articles long, and we decided that the stuff they told us should not be published uncommented, because there were so many interesting things in there that we had to comment. And we will see what kind of stuff I'm talking about. But some people call it a DOS, denial of service attack against the media, because that's only the stuff I wrote in the last half a year on media about the Luca app. And if every one of these articles has several screen pages full of information and stuff where Luca says that is not true, or Nexenio says that is not true, and they have their own opinions on many things. So I decided to use my skills to write a warning to people. Regensburg Digital is a very renowned and prize-awarded blog here in Regensburg. It's independent, and the Regensburg city decided to use Luca, and then they pulled back. They said, okay, no, we didn't know that. Oh, sorry, we didn't know that. And so that's in that context, I wrote this article about warning, don't use it, and I provided a template warning for other cities and other people who wanted to, who lived in cities or entities that might have wanted to use Luca. Oh, that's, by the way, still one of the most visited pages on Regensburg Digital by now. I really am happy that way. It's a non-for-profit portal also, NGO and stuff. And after all of that, people started to ping me. Yeah? So that was also one of my most successful tweets. People looked at the code. After long and tedious discussions, Luca and the developers put the code online on open source. It ended up in GitHub. They pretty fast fixed some license issues that they were not aware of before. They even talked to I think it was an Austrian developer whose code they had used without asking and without naming. So at the end, they fixed a lot of things that they had done wrong in the beginning. In the meantime, we had lots of people had looked at the code and they found really interesting things in there. So I don't know if you can see it. The first green line is this is how they parse email addresses. Yeah. So in JavaScript, so the first green line is all the characters that you see the replace all function. Yeah, and then they replaced all the SQL statements in email addresses, because they had an SQL data transfer to the Gesundheitsamt, to the public health authorities. This is already the fixed version. I'm not kidding, yes? And it's all online. You can all look it up. It's all on GitHub also. And so this tweet brought me thousands and thousands of impressions. I think, yes, it was 160,000 people looked at that, and lots of them commented. And but that was not all. There was a second part of it, because they had another problem in their code, and it was about the cache. And if the cache didn't work, if a cache doesn't work, you would expect that a warning goes out, but that was not the case. So I don't remember the details, but look it up there. So there's the code also together with these tweets, and that and other things led to the major IT scientists in Germany, hundreds of them, or 100 of them, warned in a public letter that made it to the media also, that they say, this is not how it should be. And that even led to German liability insurances, or one German liability insurance, using them as a role model for, that's why you need our insurance. Yeah? So I'm not going to dive into that. You should read that. That's really interesting what they say, because of course Nexenio is not of the opinion of the insurance company, and they were not very happy that I wrote about that as a journalist. And it didn't take long, and one of my teenage or university time, I studied here in Regensburg, and here at the parties in the late 90s and stuff, the music we listened to and we danced to was from Smudo and the Fanta 4. Yeah? But then this year, suddenly, he blocked me on Twitter. So some people say, that's good, you now, he recognizes you, yeah. And I'm like, that's sad, so please, Smudo, if you're here and listen to that, unblock me. I'm not angry at you, why should I? So the Chaos Computer Club called out for a Bundesnotbremse, which is a wonderful German word. They said, we need a federal full break, emergency stop now with this Luca stuff. In this article, you see you should read it also. They call it the grave of millions, Millionengrab, and much more. Right now, we have 900 and more fails and counting. Honkhase, who is Manuel Artug, who is the chairman of and speaker of the AG Kritis, the Working Group for Critical Infrastructure, and he collects all the mistakes and failures and points discussable in Luca. They range from concept to security to coding and whatsoever. Right now, we are at over 900 tweets that he counted. These are the last ones, the 902, 903, 904, I think. And some of them are very interesting. It's so funny that I am mentioned in the last 3 ones with one of my tweets and some things happening. In the meantime, we, the community of people that, I don't consider myself an expert, but there's experts out there who had a scientific look, technical look, coders look on all the stuff that Luca did. And those people are amazing. Sebastian, for example, did a timeline app, a timeline website. So on his website, you have statistical breakdowns and geographical locations of the articles about Luca app. He made a map, he made a statistics, and the whole thing is endless. Yeah, he even wrote documentation on the bottom left for that. Yeah, and this is timeline Luca fail. There is so much more. Yeah, the Chaos Computer Club Freiburg, for example, somebody's here from Freiburg, I thought yesterday, is doing statistics. They're using Grafana on the API of Luca in order to find out how useful it is, how much it is used. Yeah? And This is public data. This is data publicly available from the Luca app, from the Nexenio, from the system, because it's part of the system. It's an integral part of the system that these data is available through the API. And it's strange that the data from the Chaos Computer Club doesn't end up being the same as Nexenio tells us. And so the Nexenio in PR sessions by people that call themselves editor-in-chief, like here, the editor-in-chief of Fischer Appelt, which is a PR agency, so they now have editors and editors-in-chief, so they can be even more like journalism, these agencies. They talk of 30 million users, 300,000 companies, and 300 health institutions using it, yeah? And at the same time, the media reports, well, that's interesting, Sachsen-Anhalt, federal state of Germany, has been using it twice. So the Chaos Computer Club numbers are like, there's 70 health institutions that that we can prove have never used this system. Yeah? And Sachsen-Anhalt, I said, has used it twice, so there's a big discrepancy between what Nexenio and Luca tell people through press agencies, how much it has been used, how helpful it is, and what experts measure. They even call it data garbage, yeah, that they create, because like Ralf Rottmann, he does a lot of the tracking of data there online. He says that about 2/3 of all the messages, all the so-called traces that go around are fake traces for obfuscating the data, which I think is done for data protection. This, at least that's what I'm told, I think. So the whole data thing is a big discussion. And I must have this disclaimer here. Nexenio, of course, claims that their numbers are right, and experts from CCC and co are totally wrong. 5 minutes, thank you. Good. The role of the press agencies is very important here, because the DOS goes also, you say 10 minutes, he says 5 minutes. And the press agencies, you know how they work. You have to convince them, and then you can buy articles in press agencies. If you have a lot of money, like the Luca app, the Nexenio Luca app, who got 20 million euro from the state for their stuff from different countries, then you can buy articles in DPA. And DPA is the Deutsche Presseagentur, German press agency. And if you do a search like this, Google search for these words, yeah, that is the text of the original DPA text. Then you find like almost 100 news outlets in Germany who just copied that. That's journalism today. Hey, I'm a journalism, but that is journalism today. They just copy the stuff that comes from the news agency. Good. Let's go on. So I wrote about all of this, and Luca and Nexenio people didn't like that, obviously. I got a write-up, an Abmahnung, a takedown notice from their lawyers, because I tweeted I had founded a self-helping group on the Luca lies, yeah? Which was in fact true, because I have at least 3 people who were ready and who stepped up and said, yes, we are a member of this group. Luca didn't like that, and so their lawyers tried to sue me. They did not in the end. They called me and they stepped back from this. But the interesting fact about it is this, lawyers, that's the write-up. The lawyers are the same ones that are representing our federal minister of Secretary of State of Health in some scandals he has. And I feel honored that they also represent the Austrian, what was he, Christian Strache, I think he was Minister President of Austria or whatever. He had the guy with the Ibiza video last year, remember, with the Russian oligarch with the dirty toenails. If you don't know that, look it up, it's really funny stuff. So at that time, my publisher Heise stood with me and published an article on it, Luca and Lies, and said something like, freedom of opinion in Corona times, critics of Luca app. A critic of Luca app was abgemahnt, had a write-up from lawyers. My last article, however, on August 24, also had some stuff in it that somebody probably didn't like. I'm not allowed to talk much into detail about this stuff. But as you can see, this text has been shortened in several places because of legal discussions. Yeah? I'm almost done. Just a few more. But I'm not the only one. Also, Eva Wolfgang, remember the lady from the Zeit? Yeah? She also got in trouble with people related to Luca and Nexenio. Here we have Berliner Zeitung and Holger Friedrich claiming that she has a financial interest in writing down Luca apps. So, and that is, she's one of the most renowned journalists in IT, tech, and big magazines in Germany. And Holger Friedrich, however, is you should look up his website, his Wikipedia site. It's really interesting. He's an entrepreneur. He bought the Berliner Zeitung, a famous Berlin magazine, and in his article online, there is already several spots where he has been criticized for intervening for his private financial interest in his newspapers. So Luca wrote about facts versus mutterings in another thing, because in Google, in the Luca app, they got 5 stars suddenly on Google for a lot of things, and many of the comments were like, great tea, fantastic food. So what had happened? Something in July had happened. You see the rating goes up suddenly, and that was a new version that had an inline rating system, yeah? And people thought they were rating the restaurant, not the app. And that was happening by the thousands, and suddenly they had super great ratings on Google. And but Luca and Nexenio says, we didn't do that on purpose, sort of like this is not a dark pattern of software development. We couldn't change, we used an external library, we couldn't change the code. Well, we can yes, we can help with them because it's open source. So GitHub is here, and they're using numerative 5-star me, and here is the code that they can change. Yeah. So this message from the blog is still online in the blog of Luca app, and it's either they don't know, they don't have the technical skills to understand how their own app works, or no, I won't say it's a lie, because that would be something that legally would be not appropriate. So we wrote articles about that, 5 stars for the Luca app, the food was so good. And there's more on that. I'm almost done, just a few more slides. And also the tender, the legal tender, the Ausschreibung in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern has been subject to many discussions. And that, of course, is a very hot and potentially harmful topic for the vendor and everybody else involved. And the competitors are pretty pissed, especially this one from Austria, Cube. I had several phone calls with him, and he says he's very angry because the Mecklenburg-Vorpommern didn't tell him what kind of market survey they did before buying an app for 5 million euro, which also was every other country that summed up to 25 or something million euro, just took the data from Mecklenburg-Vorpommern and said, this federal state of Germany bought it, everything must have been right, so we can do that too. So, but they didn't tell him on what basis they had made their decision in terms of market survey. So he asked the state of Bavaria. The state of Bavaria told him, they even searched for English keywords. And that is the market survey they did. So he is assuming that their market survey probably was run by Google. And there must have been more, because otherwise that would not have been okay. There is more complaints coming in from other vendors also right now. I saw this yesterday. This is just a few days ago. And the funny thing is, guess who was involved in the tender in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern? The company that wrote about Nexenio before. But yeah, Nexenio, of course, claims that there is no connection between Dataport and Nexenio. Dataport is the company that did that led the negotiations for the legal tender that led into German state and federal states buying Luca app. And they also, if you look for Dataport and Nexenio, you'll also find them in other contracts from early this year for the German school cloud. This is one screenshot. They are in the same contract. This is a legal document. This is a data protection document, yeah? And Dataport, remember, that's why I have this little yellow icon. They are those that did the article in January about Nexenio and their authentication product. Dataport, Nexenio disclaimer says, we did not have any contact. Yeah? And here it is, that's the proof that that is really making the competitors angry. Yeah? this thought. Yeah? So I'm not saying there has been any connection. I'm not saying that anything has been strange about this whole thing. But there's many fake news around, so that's why all of this makes me kind of frown. For example, in Germany and in Europe, you need a Datenschutzfolgeabschätzung, a data protection, an assessment of the consequences and potential impact that your app will have on terms of data protection. And there has been long discussions, this is my last slide, there have been long discussions whether Luca had one or did not have one. In the interview with Patrick Hennig and in the talks we had on the phone before that and in mails, they claimed that the Luca app never had one, then they claimed that it's not necessary or whatever. So there were a lot of interesting conversations going on that I documented in my articles. And this is a proof that the German Data Protectors Conference said that they handed in the Datenschutzfolgeabschätzung later. So this is end of April, obviously. End of April, they had one. The tender was done in first quarter of 2021. And that is what the people from the other companies are unhappy about, and that's why they go to court, because they say some things have been interesting. Last slide. This whole thing, there is so much more. I could fill two more hours with stuff I was probably not allowed to say, has led to discussions everywhere. Even the German Society for Medicinal Informatics, Biometrics, and Epidemiology said, we have to ask ourselves the question if we embarrassed ourselves as Germany in the whole world with all those apps and what we did. This is not my words. None of these in this talk are my words. All of this is quotes. Yeah? So my personal thank goes out to the helping group, the Honghase, Eva Fassel, Barbara Kastel, Bianca Kastel, the CCC, Linus Center, and many, many others. Yeah? And those slides will appear soon online. And here's the disclaimer again from my most recent article on Telepolis. Yeah, that's it.